find your seats. You can move them around too, you know, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure everybody was all set. If you want to move your pack of seats, you can. You need Sidurim, however. The blue ones, Sim Shalom, and so do I. Because it's a Chag. My Siddur just doesn't have it in there, our Song of Abraham. Just check one. That is not coming through. All right, so Sarah, if you have the pad, you can press live. It's live. Are we live? If someone wants to check and see that we are on YouTube, we can do that too. In fact, I will probably do that. I'll be right back. If you're watching me, Chag Sameach. I'll be right back. I'll explain that in a second. Yep. Eventually, we'll pass the. Sameach, Chag Sameach, we are ready to begin on this beautiful night here in the Temple Beth Abraham courtyard. Just a few people watching on YouTube, but a large gathering here, not really, but it probably feels like it. To have all of you together is pretty awe-inspiring, literally. And so we're actually going to begin with just a simple Shehechianu, which we say anyway for the Chag, for the holiday of Shavuot, the holiday that celebrates the receiving of the Torah, but just celebrating being together. When we were together on our last class for confirmation, I mean, they were just giddy. We're talking about the most serious subject, you know, death and the afterlife, and they were just cracking up the whole time, just because they just were so happy to see other human beings, and especially people that they've grown up together with. So Shehechianu, oh yes, can you sing? Quietly. So only the person next to you maybe should be able to hear you. Right, so it has to be still muted because technically singing is still forbidden at worship services here in Alameda County. So, but you can sing quietly, you have your masks on, which we appreciate, so please do that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lahazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, who has sustained us, who has given us life, and who has enabled us to reach this season. So tonight is our confirmation service. It's also Erev Shavuot. Because Shavuot celebrates the receiving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, confirmation, when it was originally invented by the Reform movement, had it on Shavuot as receiving Torah. Although these teens aren't really confirming anything tonight. They didn't have to sign a paper that says they're going to be Jewish for the rest of their life. I mean, they are, right, halachically speaking. But the choices that you make for the rest of your lives are entirely up to you. All we hope here is that we've given you a foundation, first of learning throughout your Hebrew school years, and then in confirmation, learning plus a little meaning, where you can start to utilize Jewish values and the things that we learn in the Torah and Talmud as you make decisions for the rest of your lives. So that's why Shavuot is associated with confirmation, the receiving of the Torah. We know it's with a heavy heart also that we enter this holiday tonight. The things that are happening in Eretz Yisrael, the loss of life, the fear, just everything. I mean, I'm not really going to dwell on that tonight, but I just want to acknowledge that this is a very heavy-hearted holiday right now for our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. So we use Sim Shalom because it is a holiday. We're going to begin on page 279, and we have some volunteers, Simone and Tamar, who are going to come to these two stations, and they're going to help me lead tonight's service. So come on up. All right, please rise for the Baruch Hu. (279). And if you could turn on that microphone and then just sort of hold it near you. It has pretty good pickup, so. You can clip it if you want, or you can hold it, whatever's easier for you. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach, Hamevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Olam Va'ed. And we can be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro mariv aravim. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. 282. Yisrael, Amcha Aveta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, Kumeinu nesiach v'chukecha, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה נגה יומם ולילה מבטך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו Page 284, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי
מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך על קומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
We continue silently. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת אדוני אלוהיכם אמת ומלכותון רצו כלוליהם, משה בני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם 290. מי כמוך,
באלים אדוני,
מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, נורא תהילות, עושה מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקר ים לפני משה. זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. 1, 2, 3, 4. מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא נורא תהילות עושה פלא נורא עושה פלא 292 השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים השכיבנו אדוני Eloheinu leshalom, Amideinu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu, uvoeinu, lechaim shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. All right, Simone and Tamar, you start off.
Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom.
Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'chamideinu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'chamideinu malkeinu lechaim. All right, we're on page 284. Simone, you take the Chatzi Kaddish. Tomorrow you'll take the Kaddish Shalem.
Which tune is the Chatzi Kaddish?
Yikadal v'kadash.
Yikadal v'kadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
Damali brachute v'amlich malchute. B'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'gala, ba'gala, uv'izman kariv. V'meru.
Amen. Yehesh me'rabba mevorach.
Ve'olam olam me'omaya. Yiparach, yiparach, v'yishtabach. V'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yinaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal. Shmei kudashah.
Barichu.
Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata.
Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma. V'meru. Amen. All right, we rise for the Amidah for festivals. It is on page 300 and, I'm sorry, 304. 304. And of course, when you're done with your Amidah, you can be seated. If you're not, you can stay standing. Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. All right, Kaddish Shalem, led by Tamar. It's on page 200 or rather, no, 300 and something. 316. Forgotten the pages in this book by now.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ואלמד יברח ירתה וימליך מלכותה. בחייכון וביומכון ובחייך ובית ישראל. בגלה בזמן קריב ימרו.
Amen. יהי שמי רבה מבורך. לעולם ועד יומיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם וינשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלש מקודשה.
בריחו.
לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תשבחתה ונעמתה דמירן ביומה וימרו.
Amen.
תתגבר צלתכון ובאותכון לכל בית ישראל, קודם ובהונדי ושמיה וימרו.
Amen.
יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו.
Amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו.
Amen. Yasher Koach. Thank you, Tamar and Simone. You can take your seats now. And we have two of the students who are going to be sharing some thoughts with you on confirmation. They graciously volunteered. Not really. I just kind of picked them who I saw on the screen at that moment. So if you're a parent and you're upset, well, my kid didn't get to speak, they all had the opportunity, I can promise you that. I just happened to have seen a couple quickly, and I just picked them, and they said yes. So wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So we're going to begin with Avi Paulson. And you just come up where I am and bring your microphone.
All right, this one works. This past week has been a tough one. Monday, I spent reloading the Times of Israel in class, fearing for the safety of my family in Jerusalem. Tuesday, I spent on Instagram, taken aback by the posts being put out by many of my peers, and attempting to create a dialogue with them. Wednesday, I spent in Dreidel, surrounded by my brothers, where we talked to each other about everything we were dealing with. And again on Thursday, I got on a call with Dreidel members, led by Jonah Bloom, where we discussed and we reflected. This past week, albeit tough, has reaffirmed for me the prominence and importance of Judaism in my life. The affinity I found at school and in Dreidel over the past few days have helped me in a measurable amount. I honestly do not know how I would have coped without them. That is why for me, community is the most important thing about Judaism. Having something so deep and so important that you're able to share is extremely special, and is something that I don't think a lot of people have the privilege of experiencing. Over the past few months, through discussing issues of sex, abortion, intermarriage, and the afterlife, I've been able to find that affinity. The discussions in this class have been helpful in content, but also in the way they have brought people together, as they have provided me a place where I was able to talk and share my thoughts with others who are like me. The discussions helped me grow as a person, and they led me to realize that I am not alone in my thoughts and feelings. In the next few days, we will hear the 10 Commandments being read, as is customary for this holiday. And in my past, I have read through the books of the Torah and studied the laws and sang the prayers, but they're not what Judaism is about for me. For me, Judaism is about a collective group of people trying to help each other do what is right. The Jewish community is what Judaism is about for me, and this class has helped me realize that. Just a few hours ago, I was thinking about how crazy it is that I'm finally being confirmed. Many of my classmates I've been at TBA with since I was 3 years old, and I remember looking up at the huge kids in the confirmation classes on the wall behind you, like it was yesterday. Real quick, I want to thank Rabbi Bloom, Susan Simon, Marta, and all my other Gone Hebrew School teachers who have helped me get to this point. I also want to thank my parents for giving me rides, but most of all, I want to thank my class because there are no other people I would have rather gone on this entire journey with than you guys. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Yasher Koach. Beautifully done, Avi. Thank you so much, and thank you for volunteering, or for willing to accept the being volunteered to speak, and for the work you're doing with our youth group, Dreidel Azier, and also helping with our streams. So thank you so much. All right, we're now going to call upon Isla Ross.
What does it mean to be a Jew? Is it fulfilling your bar bat mitzvah requirements and never coming back to shul? Or fasting on Yom Kippur because you know that's what's expected of you? Or never eating bacon without actually knowing why? Coming into confirmation, I expected to finally learn a definitive answer as to what it means to be a Jew, and more specifically, how I could be the best Jew. But soon into our weekly meetings, I realized it wasn't going to be as clear-cut as I had originally thought. We were learning about the ancient teachings and rules of Judaism, and considering how they related to our current lives. But with each class, I felt increasingly confused. Luckily, we don't live in a world where these dated, and in many cases, problematic laws inform how we lead our lives. But where does that leave us as modern Jews? What ties do we have left to our ancestors and their teachings if we have modernized their rules to a point where they bear little resemblance to their original form? While I was busy worrying about how I can implement every Jewish teaching into my daily life in a contemporary way, and trying to ascertain the deeper meaning behind some of the more outrageous rules, like facing the death penalty for talking back to your parents, the actual purpose of confirmation was playing out before my eyes. Here we were, a group of a dozen Jewish teens from our B'nai Mitzvah class, coming back every week to learn from the rabbi, catch up in breakout rooms, and partake in the rabbi's chosen pull of the day, like would you marry a non-Jew? Most of us go to different schools, and we certainly lead very different lives, yet we all kept coming back. Maybe it was because our parents told us to, or because we felt we had some sort of duty to complete our Beth Abraham education. But I think it's more than that. There is a sense of comfort and familiarity in the community we have in our B'nai Mitzvah class, but also as Jews in general. The feeling of coming together after a long day, even on an impersonal medium like Zoom, and listening to the rabbi talk about the given topic of the class reminded me of simpler times, when, as an elementary schooler, my friends and classes at Hebrew school were even more important to me than regular school. Judaism is our common ground, despite all other dividing factors that we may have as people, and the shared set of values we hold brings us together. That's not to say, however, that we don't follow these values and relate to them in different ways, because we all certainly do. Being a Jew is not simply following the various rules and regulations, checking boxes off the ever-growing list of how to be a good Jew. It's the songs that every temple has a slightly different melody to, the countless recipes for how to make the supposed best Rosh Hashanah honey cake, and the communities created by this individuality. The beauty of Judaism lies in the vast multiplicity of Jews and their practices. Every Jew who practices their religion in a slightly different way, who places meaning on slightly different aspects of their faith and community, is the best kind of Jew. So no, I did not receive the type of answer I was looking for as to what it means to be a Jew. But I think that's because there is no one answer. It is enough to embrace the community that we have here in our B'nai Mitzvah class, and with Jews around the world, to celebrate our differences hand in hand with the values and practices that bring us together. That is what it means to be a Jew.
Yasher Koach. Thank you so much. Isla, beautifully spoken. All right, beautifully spoken and done. You know, Isla, thank you. You were always right on the dot, right on time. You know, at whatever time we started, 6 o'clock, you were always right there, always very reflective in the class with your discussion points as well. And a couple things that really were interesting. First of all, this has always been a great class. I've always loved the kids in this class. And they were always a lot of fun, lots of personalities. sometimes too much for their own good, but always just great for the teachers, and really enjoyed having them in class. Two things that were really unique, though, besides COVID. One is, well, this is COVID related. When I do an adult class, or when Susan does an adult class, and we arrive, first, let's say we arrive at, if the class starts at 6 and we're there at 5:58, there's already 10 people there, and they are gabbing away and talking and talking and talking. They show up exactly on time, most of them, a couple of them within the first 5 minutes, but the majority of them show up boom, 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 and they don't talk at all. They just stare at the screen. There's no conversation. You know, it's just so different the way adults treat Zoom versus the way the students treat Zoom. I was really, really struck by that. And then one of the things we do, and they referred to some of this, we talk about these contemporary issues and how they are reflected in Jewish texts. Like, we don't just talk about abortion, right? We follow a text through the book of Exodus, and then through the Mishnah, and then through the Talmud, and then what Jewish law has become, Orthodox, conservative, reform. And then we talk about, you know, where we might fit somewhere in that spectrum. But we have a lot of 1 to 5 questions, which are, you know, how do you feel about this topic, you know, on a scale of 1 to 5? Like 5 being you feel very strongly about it, 1 not at all. Or like, how Jewish do you feel at this moment? Are you a 5 or you're a 1? You can ask your own kids that question if you want. I'm not going to share with you their particular answers, but we did that a lot, and they were all over the map, as is probably normal for this age. But always they were engaged. They almost always had their videos on, except when they were eating, out of politeness. And so thank you, students, for really just sticking with it. And even though we could not be together in person except that one time. And so we're so proud of you that we're going to give you a gift. In fact, if we didn't give you enough Jewish wisdom in the class, that is literally what we're giving you now, a book called Jewish Wisdom. All right, so if you would come up, starting with Simone Weiss, and Susan's going to hand you a book, and Bela Polston, and Isla Ross, and Tamara Brinus, Lindsay Cottle, Ruby Sadekman, Asher Mecklin, Nathaniel Ilfeld, Shayna Silbersweig, Galvin Fickus, Zachary Fickus, Avi Paulson, and, while helping with the stream and the camera, Sarah Antebbe. Yasher Koach and Mazel Tov to all of you. We are going to now continue with the concluding parts of the service, and then there'll be a whole bunch of closing songs. So just hang on, Susan's going to pass you those out too. But first, we rise for the Aleinu on, I think it's 320. And, you know, if you want to decide right now in your families who's going up, who's going down, who's going front, who's going back, I certainly welcome that. Have a little fun. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzev reshit, shelo asanu kegei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu note shamayim veyoser aretz, umoshev yikaro bashamayim mima'al, ushchinat uzo bego he miromim, hu Eloheinu enod, emet malkeinu efezulato, kakatu betorato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota, elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, Bashamayim mima'al, ve'al ha'aretz mitachat, enod. Kakatu b'tortecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihye Adonai echad ushemo echad. All right, those who wish to remain standing can do so for the mourner's Kaddish. All others can be seated. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayechol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach, le'olam l'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shmedikudsha, Marichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata, Damiran v'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Zichronam livracha, may the people you're thinking of today be a blessing to you always. Amen. All right. So we're passing out closing songs, closing prayers, or another sort of activity I'll give you. It turns out I need one too. We might not quite have enough for everybody, but we definitely have enough for a couple per family. Thank you, Susan. All right, at some point we're going to have you bless your children, but I'm going to start with the song called Uf Gozal. And I'm going to translate it for you, hopefully correctly, or at least mostly correctly. It's a song by a great Israeli singer Arik Einstein, and it's about little birds leaving the nest. Hagozalim shali azvu etaken. The little birds have left the nest. Parsuk nafayim va'afu. They flap their wings and begin to fly. Vanitzi porz kenani sharti baken. And I'm an old bird, remaining here in the nest. Mikaveh me'od she'akol yeh beseder. I hope that everything will be all right. Tamid yadati she'avo hayom. I always knew that this day would come. Shavuot tzarich lehit pared, that we would need to separate. Aval achshav ze kacha bali patom, but now that it has come upon us so suddenly, az maha pele she'ani ketzat doeg, is it any wonder that I'm a little worried? Uf gozal chatochet hashamayim, young birds, they cut through the sky. Tus le'an shebalecha, they fly to wherever it is they're going. Rak al tishkach, only don't forget, Yesh nesher b'shamayim gur lecha. There are eagles in the sky, and they may make you afraid. Achshav nisharnu levadenu baken. We remain here in the nest, but aval anachnu b'yachad. But we're together. Chavki oti chazak tagidi liken. Hold me a little tighter. Tell me yes. Al tidagi b'yachad kef lehis daken. Don't worry. It'll be fun to grow old together. So. It's a beautiful song with lots of meaning. Arik Einstein. This is not part of the song. Sorry about this. The wind takes away the tune. All right, here we go. הגוזלי שלי עזבו את הקן, פרסו כנפיים ועפו, ואני ציפור זקנה נשארתי בקן. מקווה מאוד שהכל יהיה בסדר. תמיד ידעתי שיבוא את היום שבות צריך להיפרד, אבל עכשיו זה ככה בא לי פתאום. אז מה הפלא שאני קצת דואג? אוף גוזל חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים גאולך. עכשיו נשארנו לבדנו בקן, אבל אנחנו ביחד. חבקי אותי חזק, תגידי לי כן. אל תדאגי, ביחד כיף להזדקן. In a normal year, I'd teach you the chorus and have you singing along, but it's hard to do with the masks. אוף גוזל, חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים גאולך. אני יודע שככה זה בטבע, וגם אני עזבתי כן. I know that this is just nature. I was once a young bird. I once left the nest too. אבל עכשיו שבא הרגע, אז מחניק קצת בגרון, מחניק קצת בגרון. But now the time is here, there's a little lump in my throat. אוף גוזל, חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים גאולך. גאולך. All right, now go ahead and turn the page over. And I'd like you all to rise. And parents, I want you to speak these words to your children. All right. Together, we give thanks for this day and for the years of growth and learning that have preceded it. As our children step forth to affirm their commitment to the ideals and mitzvot of our faith, we recall the words of the Talmud, Brachot 17a. May you live to see your words fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. And may you trust in generations past and yet to be. May your heart be filled with intuition and your words be filled with insight. May songs of praise ever be upon your tongue and your vision be on a straight path before you. May your eyes shine with the light of holy words and your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. Now go ahead and put your hands on their heads. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Yer Adonai panav elecha v'kuneka. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. Amen. Amen. All right, you can sit back down. All right, so now we're just going to do one little fun song, 613 Commandments, because it is Shavuot. There were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broken to pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. Because the Torah was much too long to describe to all the Jews, our God decided to write 10 commandments that said the don'ts and do's. Every commandment talked about the way we have to live when we work or play, cook or clean, borrow, take or give, because there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broken to pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. So when it's time, as we stood at the bottom of the mount and listened to Moshe, he asked how many wanted the Torah, and a bunch of us said, yeah. We thought about the way life was and the way life ought to be. Without the Torah, we would have been lost and stuck with idolatry. But there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broken to pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. So when it's time to celebrate Chag HaShavuot, we all rejoice because the Torah's ours to study, teach, and quote. Had we not made a promise to be chosen and to choose, remember that there wouldn't be a people called the Jews, because there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broken to pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. Yeah, we couldn't believe our eyes. All right. So we're going to finish with Hatikva, Israel's national anthem, just a song of hope for us, for peace in Israel, that we can be free from terror and free from the challenges somehow that live there, and especially for Tamar and Lindsay and Isla, who are supposed to be headed there this summer. Anybody else have scheduled trips to Israel this summer? And Micah as well. I hope and pray that you get to go. So we're going to conclude with Hatikva. Asher is also going. So 5 of you in the room. So go ahead and please rise, and we'll finish with Hatikva, our hope. And with apologies to those who I told it would take an hour of the service, it's less. Kol od balevav penima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulfate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. O lo avda tikvatenu, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Chag Sameach, and let's be safe and careful out there. And if you want to end the stream,